Hey everyone, and welcome to this next edition of the Snapchat. Today we're being joined by none other than Cozy Snap. Cozy, how are you doing today, my friend?
What's up, dude? Doing well. We've got some important subjects to talk about on this side, and ones that I've been waiting to make a video on. So I'm excited for this Snapchat in particular as we climb our way to 20 episodes, man.
Yeah, it's been crazy. 20 episodes already, and I got to tell you, as I say every single week, it really is the highlight of my Marvel Snap content creation. And, I think we're going to be touching on incredible topics this week. Do you mind letting us know what we're talking about on your side of the channel?
Yeah, so on my side, guys, we're talking about King. Is he any good? How do we feel about him in general? Is he good for Marvel Snap? Is he a good card? Is he worth unlocking? And speaking of worth unlocking, we also have a token shop tier list ranking all the new cards in Pool 4 and 5. A lot of fun, a lot of discussion there, Alex, and surprising on some of our picks. And then we have the March Season Pass preview. It's going to start next week, and it is interesting, to say the least, the new cards coming and what we think of them in general. And yeah, good subjects, man. It was a good talk.
Absolutely. And today on this channel here, we're talking about the card acquisition problem. We're also going to talk about the free-to-play tips, give you guys some ideas for free-to-play players to kind of maximize their experience. And finally, we're going to talk about a snapshot of the Marvel Snap meta from February 2023, while also giving us a hint of perhaps what might be coming in the future. Now, Cozy, card acquisition in Marvel Snap. This is one of those conversations I think comes up a lot in our comment sections. I'm sure you see it nonstop. I see it nonstop. It comes up on Twitter, comes up on Reddit, comes up pretty much on Discord every single moment of every single day. This is a hot topic with regards to Marvel Snap, partially because, of course, the game has a very unique collection-based system. Cozy, what are you hearing on your side of the community with regards to like card acquisition and how people feel about it in general?
Yeah, so this was the first subject I wrote down this week for what I wanted to talk about. It's important to talk about it in general, and it just is so unique. I've got to say, Marvel Snap, the reason why it's successful is it's a unique, fresh take to the card gaming genre, to a strategy game. But with things that are unique, they come with things that are different, right? They're trailblazing in instances. And this is by far the biggest problem in Marvel Snap at the moment. It feels so weird. It's the only game that I've ever played, or especially made content on, that new things coming to the game is I have to actively avoid talking about it on my channel to avoid dislikes, angry comments. Like, it's crazy that a new game with new content is not what I get to make content on, right? In general. But then never mind the content. Everybody's just playing the game. We can't get excited about new cards coming in. And so it's a very unique take. I do like the series drops and how they have it somewhat lined up, but they definitely have to fix the new card system. And Alex, I know we're going to talk about a lot of bullet points with this, but in my opinion, I think you separate the big bads. You have their own tier after that, or you have to have one pool 4, one pool 5, and maybe a pool 3 even. I think definitely, actually, per month. And you evaluate, the devs can do it, but you evaluate Shadow King. They know he's not great. Put him at a pool 3 unlock. Let more people have him so at least they can play with him, right? So I'm sorry to go on a TED Talk monologue, but it's just an interesting, it's something I've never come across.
Cozy, I think you're absolutely right, because honestly, adding cards to different pools would be a pretty much resolution to this problem, because like in pool 3, yes, there are people that aren't pool 3 complete yet, but you get access to those cards really regularly. There is a cadence to the unlock, which I think does not exist in series 4 and 5. Your idea and the concept of having the big bads almost in their own category with almost like a guaranteed lock structure, I think makes perfect sense, because right now they're the only cards that really feel good to spend tokens on. Like when you spend tokens on Thanos, Kang, or Galactus, at least you're not like, they're not getting discounted next week and you just wasted tokens because you bought them at the inopportune time. Like that's kind of what happened with me with Darkhawk and others. I mean, I paid 6,000 for Super Scroll. The thing's barely being used. It's going to be 1,000 tokens next week probably, right? So I think you bring up a really good point. I think that the system of the tokens and how much each thing's cost can be changed. The idea of releasing brand new cards directly into Pool 3, like that is something that people would actually get excited about, because they could actually access the cards. Tokens are hard to find, and now the card unlocks are near impossible themselves.
Well, they talked about it. I think it's going to come in April is what they've said, but essentially they want to introduce where when a card comes out, your next rotation of the token shop is that card, which if they stuck with the model would make people even more pissed. Like, hey, buy this King you can't get. But if they do a pool 3 introduction or pool 4, and then it's the first one up and you have one shot, it's like, hey, you want to test it out? You want to get it? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, I've seen about like let players rent a card, let them only use it in battle mode. I thought that was brilliant, because then everyone can at least maybe participate with the content, right? And so I've got two issues. One of them being the buffs and nerfs. I think they need to be more often, at least the small ones, because it brings fresh change. And then if you add this in there, there's a lot of moving parts, and I do like that with Marvel Snap, and I think it's important. I will say the everyone having every card is the biggest subject, and I think there's no right answer. Guys, listen, you can be opinionated all you want, but there's not a right answer on it. You know, I come from the Pokemon collecting days, and it was kind of fun to have, random cards. Magic players don't have every cards unless you're spending a small fortune, right? So I don't hate that aspect. I'm fine not having Sauron. I would say with the token comment, I think it's okay. I got Shuri at 6. I mean, I know yours was Super Scroll, and I apologize for that. But, like, you're getting to use him forever beforehand. If you're a big, Zero fan, then Sauron is worth 6,000 if you get to use him, like, 2 months early. But currently, there's so many flaws with it, and they know that, and I hope it comes soon.
You know what? And I think there was a really interesting suggestion that was thrown my way. The idea of perhaps there being like, when it rotates in your shop, a brand new card, like they had the splash screen, like Stature is now out, Kang is now out. When you click that button, you can buy it for like a reduced amount of tokens. But I fear, like, let's say you can get it for 5,000 or 4,500, somewhere in the middle, so you can actually access it and get a deal. But then that like creates a FOMO situation. So I don't know how I feel about it, right? Kind of exploits that like fear of missing out. So I wonder about that. But one idea I had that I've always turned back to, that I always thought was really cool, apparently I'm the only one, was the idea that, like, let's say you have a card in your shop. There's the token cost, whatever. I think that there should be little icons that look like little cars. Like, imagine like a Monopoly car, right? And it should be called the test drive token. And you get like 10 test drives for every card in your token shop. Where, like, if you put it into a deck, you can use it 10 times. You use up a test drive token. And then after you use those 10 tokens, you can either buy it or you can let it go. The idea of like testing and actually piloting and seeing if you like a card while still unlocking boosters for it and whatnot, I think is a pretty cool idea, because half the time you're scared to spend tokens because it's like Shayna. We were talking about Shayna on your side. I would love to just try Shayna a couple times because I think in my head I love the card, but I don't know, and I'm not going to spend 6,000 tokens on it.
Yeah, I feel like unranked mode, if that comes out, it's just like a casual mode. Like, why not just let people play as much as they want with them there? I don't think it matters. And because I said with Galactus, we were talking about him on my tier list, and it was like, well, watch other people to see if you like Galactus because he's worth it if you like to play him. But watching and playing is two different things, right? And so I agree. I think the middle ground is just battle mode, unranked mode, limited access. I don't think it's a problem. Or just figure out a way to let them rent it, whatever that might be. The last problem that needs to be solved, and otherwise I think nearly a perfect game. I love Marvel Snap. Truly enjoy and have so much passion for the game. They just got to get people excited about new things coming out that isn't a game mode. And you have a new card every week. Make it exciting. It's not rocket science. This needs to be done soon rather than later. And I'm talking within the next couple of weeks, because there's really, it should be the forefront focus over there. I understand it's tough to figure that out probably. But at this point in time, there's no reason why a new card should come out and I have to avoid making a video because of the public anger. And I'm not, I don't get me wrong. I am there for it. I understand it. But it should never exist in the first place. So I'm hoping we get some big changes. Again, second dinner, Marvel Snap. They've never proven, they've never done anything that makes me, not trust that they're going to handle this with care and the right way. I think they do things right. So I'm excited to see what this looks like. Yeah, and I think it's obviously on the radar. They have to know this amount of feedback that they get. Like, I think they're listening all the time and they see it. And I just want to kind of reiterate, like, Cozy's not crazy when he says that we get hate for releasing videos about new cards. Like, I just released a Kang video, and like the first comments were just roasting me for releasing a Kang video. And he's not lying, guys. He's not exaggerating. He's 100% correct. It's a real thing, and that's not a good thing. Like, I don't want to whine as a content creator, let's be honest here, but what I'm trying to tell you is, like, there is serious frustration. A new card comes out, people are pissed. They're not excited, they're pissed. Dude, I got Ghost, I have Stature, I have pretty much every card that's come out in the last week. The last new card video I made was Dazzler. And that was like a month and a half ago, because there's no point. There's no point for it. And I don't want to just like further anger the issue, right? But in general, it's just weird. It's awkward. And I hope they change it in some form or fashion. I will say the timing to play time to get more cards, pull 1 through 3, I think it's done fine. I still don't have a problem with it. Now with the token shop, even more so. In beta, I had to play in a ridiculous amount to get all the cards. So I'm okay with that card acquisition. But when it comes to new releases and just the entire pool, 3, 4, 5 system, just figure it out. I think they got to change that. But that pretty much sums up it all together. I'm passionate about it. But again, they haven't proven me wrong, so let's see what they've got.
The other side to the card acquisition problem is like, and this is something a lot of people don't talk about, but like it kind of does bother me that when I'm going through the collection track, there are as many empty spots as there are. Like when you think about it, you are just going for those 12 levels to just get your next cash. And it's like, okay, cool. I got 100 tokens. Like, you know what I mean? You have all this empty space and you get 10 boosters. Cool. All this empty space, you get 50 credits. Cool. So it's like, it's one of those situations where it's like, man, what are you even waiting for? Why? Like, you're engaging with the collection track and it's supposed to be this exciting thing, but it sucks so bad because you're never unlocking anything. And like, that's why it shatters my heart. One of the things I'm worried about is all the players that aren't Pool 3 complete yet. It gets way worse once you're done Pool 3. You got nothing to look forward to once you're done Pool 3. And that's what I'm really worried about. And I feel like Second Dinner has to fix this before the majority of players are out of Pool 3.
First of all, just for their case, they should have everything be a box, right? That has the same, that you can throw in the 50, whatever, but like have weighted percentages that aren't crap. They have to show them to the public. I think that's a new rule in the United States. Have that though, for every chance you get, right? You got to take out some of the BS. I swear I might be up there for the most owned avatars. If I get another one of those, I'm going to lose it. I got a Craven one and I'm like, this just feels bad, right? And it should be exciting when you do get that collector's level going up. They've got to fix that. Here's my thought, though. Just continue the visual upgrades, right? So special frames. And maybe you only get that frame for just Human Torch. But then it's exciting because you at least got something visual that you can do that's special. And how hard is it to come up with a couple colors or come up with a new design, right? That you can throw onto these cards. Now, they'd have to adjust some of the back-end issues. But visual upgrades is always fun. And if they're doing this first edition thing anyway, maybe they're already starting this. That's a way to feel continually like, dude, I don't need a new card all the time, right? But right now, give me, I certainly don't want a Quicksilver avatar, right? So give me something that I could say, hey, look at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and from like a kind of like greedy standpoint, if you want to go there from like a, let's make money perspective, I would love to have a reason to buy credits just to progress my collection level fast. I have no reason to buy credits. Zero. I have no desire to. Like, why? Why am I going to go up the progression track faster? For what? So I can get more boosters and 50 credits? I'm spending credits to get 50 credits every once in a while. I'm sure as hell not unlocking cards. So it's like, why? Like, if there's more value in the collection track and if you're collecting more cards, because, I mean, listen, we can collect a card a week. It's really getting a card a week that hard? Like, if we earn it, can we not get a card a week? They're releasing a card a week. If we just play the game, can we stay on top of it? Why do I have to be so far behind? Just because the card acquisition feels so impossible.
Yeah, it is something I think they know it now, and it's got to get fixed, and hopefully they get on top of it. Definitely, it's not rocket science. They're not far off either. They're not super far off. Just fix the glaring issues as developers, right? As a YouTuber, when I make content, I always put myself in the viewer's shoes, right? Every time. I'm like, how would they approach this? Is this worth their time? Am I wasting their time? And I cut my intros, things like that because of that. As a developer, you put yourself in the player's shoes and you say, does this feel good? Does this feel good? I don't give a damn about stakeholders or whatever. Does this feel good as a player? And most of the time, it's a check, right? Right now, with those fields, it's not. So yeah, I hope to see change soon.
What I will say though is like you bring up a really good point about how it feels and how the development team needs to be in touch with that. So when I was in New York City, I had the opportunity to actually speak with the development team, and I will tell you for a fact that they don't have god accounts that have like trillions of gold that are just, they play like everyone else does. They collect just like everyone else does. They buy their tokens just like everyone else does. And they do that intentionally because they want to be in touch with the player experience. I know this for a fact. I spoke to them about it. And in my head, I'm like, well, obviously they have like these god tier dev accounts. No, they don't. They have accounts like everybody else. So they are well in tune with what we're experiencing.
What's funny too is like the new cars, like look at the month of January, all those cars are crap. They're dog water. Terrible, terrible cards. So like, is it a big deal to have people get those? Because it's not even about, I'm going to be honest, guys. I hate to say this just bluntly. If you are in you're like a rank 30, 40 player, is that the first time you've heard the word dog water before?
I'm just laughing. You're like, it's like you're so angry, but you're trying to stay completely PG at the same time. Tell us how you really feel, Coccia.
Yeah, well, you students are watching. I feel like when it comes to the new cards, if you're a rank 30 to 40 player, getting Darkhawk, Thanos, and Galactus, it's not going to magically shoot you up. I can promise you. There's much more fundamental things that you have to work on Alex, I know you just climbed a ton and you probably learned a lot during that, right? New cards wasn't going to get that done for you. Now, are there good decks to use with slightly higher winning rates? Yes. But a Devil Dinosaur win rate compared to a Darkhawk, it's not a big percentage gap, guys. It's not a massive one at that. And so if that's the case, then they should be a lot easier to access in general. And so I'm curious about it. I don't think I've ever been spot on with what they do and what their decisions are of what they change. But we're going to have to see, Alex. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and again, we want the player experience to be the best it can be, right? And if you can't collect cards in a card game, then I think that's a major issue. And once again, Cozy, and you can kind of verify this, the amount of negativity we see in like comment sections and just in general social media over this fact is very significant. People are very frustrated with this. And like you're talking about players that like, I like to think about this in a way, like someone who is angry enough about a game to like kind of talk about it. I know they're angry, but at the same time, it's usually coming from a place of like love in the sense that, like they love the game. And if they didn't care, if they didn't want to play the game, if they didn't want to engage with the community, if they didn't want to, unlock cards and keep playing, they wouldn't be saying the things that kind of like, hey, this is pissing me off. Because like if they just didn't care, they just disappear and never play again. But they take the time to actually make their voices heard because like they love the game, but they're annoyed at these certain things, right?
It comes with the territory though a little bit, right? As a YouTuber, like that this is their outlet to get some of that stuff out because they can't write to second dinner. And I think one of the things in the position that I'm at currently is like I'm just a positive guy. Like that's just how I was made, right? Like if my flight gets canceled at the airport, I'm not the screamer. I'm like, well, damn, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do now, right? And don't get me wrong, I will speak up when needed, but it is interesting to get those comments because I feel the frustration. And there's nothing worse than releasing a token shop video and the top comment is, this will be nice to play in 90 years. And it's 400 up liked. And I'm like, well, it has nothing to do with what I presented, right? And obviously I would like for that to change eventually. So Alex, free to play tips is our next subject. And this is a great one. We just talked about, card acquisition. You have to spend money. As a free-to-play player, what are the biggest tips or advantages that they can do when they're not spending money in the game?
Yeah, I think this topic was important to bring up because so many new players are coming into the game every single day, and a lot of the content's a bit outdated, and a lot of people are giving, like, they kind of, like, look on Reddit, like, what do I do as new? And they get, like, this advice from when the game first launched, where I think things have changed. Like, for instance, a lot of the classic advice was that you should be using your gold on mission rerolls because you want to build a season pass. Well, I think that's changed now. Cozy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that new players should be saving their gold and then investigating when new bundles are coming out for gold that allow them to progress faster through pool 1, 2, and 3. Because I think that bundles right now represent the best value for gold expenditures because gold's valuable. You don't want to waste it. And the other thing about it, though, we talk about kind of like acquisition and stuff, but isn't it kind of crazy that you have to get to rank 90 to get the 500 gold? Like, wouldn't a free-to-play player really appreciate maybe if that was just a little notch lower, maybe 80, maybe 70? I mean, getting to 90 for 500 gold, I think, can be a little bit of a source of frustration for players. We want to get rid of those frustrations, but I think that ultimately saving gold for bundles is probably the best thing to do right now, Cozy.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You got to reward people for grinding, but also it's weird. Yeah, I understand that. Maybe put some other tiers in there. I would say this is why with Marvel Snap, compared to other games, and I know you were against this, and I think you're leaning towards more for it, is data mine stuff. People used to, most games, you don't want to look, you don't want to be spoiled. It's kind of important in Marvel Snap to be kept up with a lot of this because then you know what to save your money for. If you are going to spend, or if you're collecting gold, is it worth hoarding that? And then also like cards, right? We just talked about on my side that the new cards coming up. And then you can look at the token shop right now and look at the future cards and see if maybe those are for you. So it is important. And the bundles, they answered. I mean, man, we gave them crap about the bundles. What did they do? They ended up doing some really good ones. I think the Collectors Tuesday or Tuesday Token Tuesday, awesome. Great stuff there. I know the value kind of equals out, but the token value is unaccounted for, and that's awesome. But then in comparison to that, it's also great to see things like the mystery variant. This one was fun to me because I think there's a lot of people that will never buy that one again because they got a pixel angel, right? But then the other half got a cool variant or they just like the feel, like why not? It's kind of fun to spend their money on. But yes, I do agree with what you said about bundling is probably right now currently the best bang for the buck.
I wonder if there's a market for like you can spend 500 gold and get a random variant. You have no idea what it is. Could be garbage. Could be another Angel Pixel variant. Hellcow Pixel. Here we go. Right. Or you're gonna get a really good one. Right. I think that's kind of interesting from that perspective. But you're right. A lot of people got burned with those pixel variants. I think people were pretty pissed off.
They can do it with visual stuff because what they don't want to get into, because it's like a gotcha feel, is like, or summoning portal or whatever, is like, what if they did any card in the game, 1,000, roll the dice, and then it's like people that don't have the cards can just get guaranteed, so it wouldn't work. But then you get in that territory, but visually, I think it's fun. I don't know. I think the price point probably can go down on gold. But I know I had fun. I got a Bucky Barnes Sport variant. I was like, oh, all right, cool. Like, I'm not going to use this.
I think the idea of you spending gold to get card acquisition, that is a very, very dark road.
No, it's a no.
We're talking about people getting angry. I think that is literally pitchforks out there.
Exactly. So it's a slippery slope. I hope they never go that way. But the other thing is, I think it's only 700 gold variants that was in that mystery thing. I think that's dumb. They need to have everyone.
Yeah, that was weak. And they didn't even really mention it. Like, you don't even know till everyone's just like collectively, hey guys, did anyone get something that didn't suck? And everyone's like, no, everyone got pixel variants. Like, oh, okay. I actually got a Morbius. It wasn't bad. It was not a pixel variant, but it was one of the least expensive Morbius ones. It was not a 1,200 gold.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I can fully confirm that, but from what I saw on Twitter, that was kind of the look of it, and that was very disappointing. They have to be transparent with that. Like a little question mark next to it, click it, whatever. They have to be transparent. So in general, though, I think they're going definitely the right way with the bundles. Let's continue to echo that. No question. Any other free-to-play tips, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things that this is more of a mindset thing. And I know this sounds a little crazy, but first of all, you want to make sure that I don't want to say play every day, but you want to make sure your missions are done. Bear in mind, you want to know when they actually reset. So if you're going to bed, I like to make sure that they're cleared out. So when I wake up, I got new sets, right? So always make sure you're doing your daily missions, because one thing that I like to kind of remind people is that they're like, well, I'll spend my goals on mission refills, but if you just do your daily missions, you don't need to spend gold on mission refills, because if you think about it, once you start spending gold on mission refills, the moment you sleep through a day and you don't do your missions, all those refills you bought basically just got erased because you just didn't play the game, right? So I think that you're better off saving for the bundles and make sure you stay on top of your missions. The other thing worth noting is that don't be baited into, this is our fault a little bit, Cozy, but don't get baited into wanting to play every single deck in the game all the time. If you want to rank up towards, getting the 500 gold, or you want to, get to that free variant, whatever it is, don't be afraid to build a deck of your own design, make a deck that you're confident with, that you practice with, that you learn the snap fundamentals, the retreat fundamentals, and play that deck. Have a fun deck, unlock Agatha, make a fun Agatha list as well. But I think that for free-to-play players who might have a limited access to other cards, learning how to play one specific deck, I think you'll find more success with than trying to make a whole bunch of different haphazard lists.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you can climb with so many more decks than you think you can, and it's just about the repetition. I know Binks talked about it on a video, and I've talked to him personally. It's hard, even for a great player, to switch a deck all the time, because you are not learning the common things you lose by. If you lose by one thing, you're not going to fall for it again 10 games later, 20 games later. But if you're constantly switching, you have no idea. I cannot tell you the amount of people that try a deck that I've made, and maybe it sucked, but they try it. They go, I went 0-4. I hate this deck. It's garbage. It's like, dude, it takes a lot more than that to kind of see it, right? And that's why win rates go up, win rates go down. The best decks lose. Bad decks can still win, and it's more about just knowing the deck that you're using. So I think that's also huge, and that speaks a lot to, I think, the token shop. As a free-to-play player, you don't get a lot of collector's tokens. So even though you might see some of these tokens rated high and some lists, right? Like a lot of people say, let's say Mystique is great, but you don't play ongoing, then don't get Mystique. It doesn't make any sense. And so really dedicating your few resources and resource management is one of the biggest things you can learn. And look ahead of time, see what you like to play, and hell, if they implement the things we said up on the last subject, then you'll get to test some of these things. So we'll have to see.
Absolutely. And talking about that as well, we got to talk about tokens too. Free-to-play players, you're obviously going to have a limited access to the amount of tokens you get. So I think that doing the research and kind of understanding what are the deck archetypes you like you don't want to buy. If you know you're never going to play Darkhawk, don't spend the 3,000 gold tokens on him, right? If you play Destroy and you love Bucky Barnes and you just got Death, then maybe Null's a perfect card for you, right? If you happen to unlock Null and you have Death already from pure luck, then hell yeah, Galactus is a 6,000 gold token expenditure, sorry. But at the end of the day, I think that everyone's position is a little unique, right? Because you also have like free-to-play players that just might buy a bundle if it's good enough every once in a while. And I think that's on second dinner to try and figure that out. Like we had the Jubilee bundle, right? It was $6. We have the starter bundle. That's pretty good value. And I think that Second Dinner is doing a good job of identifying like where they can make changes to the bundles to not only make them more enticing so they make more money, but so that a free-to-play player looks at it and is like, you know what? I can spend $10 on this because it makes sense. Not like the Apocalypse bundle and the Mr. Negative bundle. Like these are like hundreds of dollars. Like why? Like we bought them. We're idiots. Like we should have not bought them and sent a message, honestly, right? So I do think that Second Dinner is doing a really good job with that. And another key consideration is that when you unlock additional cards, they start off as commons. Upgrading a card from common to uncommon only costs 25 credits, Cozy, as opposed to the 50 credits it costs every additional time afterwards per booster. So the first kind of upgrade from common to uncommon, you get the most value for your credits and allowing you to progress faster in the collection track. Don't forget that, because even those small little kind of ins and outs and min-maxing does make a significant difference over time.
Yes, for sure. The last thing I'll say on this subject, guys, is when it comes to what you unlock in general, kind of go along with it. If you get a Doctor Doom early in Pool 3, one of my favorite times in Marvel Snap that I wish I could go back to is going into Pool 3 for the first time. I loved it. I loved seeing what I got, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to do a Red Skull deck now, or I'm going to make this now. And you can continue to do that, but if you get Red Skull, and then 10 things later you get Typhoid, well, maybe you should just go for the Zero archetype, right? Like, look at the cards that you have unlocked, go for that. It's going to save you a lot more in the long run, and then continue to build on that as you unlock more cards for free just by playing the game. Alex, Marvel Snap's meta in 2023 for the month of February. I just released my meta deck report. It's an interesting meta to talk about, and I think we've already echoed the issues of new cards, and I think that's the first thing that people are going to want to talk about. Or not new cards, but just Pool 5 cards, Pool 4 cards, which is the meta right now. You know, Thanos is the meta right now. Darkhawk is countering him, which is also the meta. Galactus. So our top decks are the most commonly played decks that are very solid. What's your opinion on Marvel Snap's meta at the moment?
I think that it's in a really interesting spot because with the patch changes we received, and something that's worth noting is that we seem to be finding out that patch changes and balance changes really shake up the meta way more than new cards do. Like, new cards have no impact on the meta. It's the balance changes that do. And obviously at the top of the meta, you do have Thanos. Thanos is absolutely god tier. As we talked about earlier, I was able to get to Infinite using a Thanos-based list. And it was pretty remarkable how flexible it was, how many win conditions it had. It's just a great list, and it's kind of crazy to think that, like, honestly, we had slept on it for so long. Like, Thanos had been around, and honestly, the buff means nothing. The buff is irrelevant. It was his interaction with Lockjaw that really sent it to the next level. So yeah, you got Thanos, and where would you say there's a second deck on the list, Cozy?
Yeah, so funny enough, like, I can't put myself in the same vein as everybody because right now, like, I'm not super bothered by going up against Thanos, right? And maybe it's because I've played him so much and I get it, because just like playing Thanos is very hard to get used to for a little bit of time, playing against him was the same thing. And that's why I think he's dominating even more so now. I would put probably Sauron and Shuri right after that. That list is very strong with little counters. Even if it can get telegraphed, it doesn't really matter because it's just such a solid deck altogether. But it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors right now with some of the top decks. Galactus Null is one of the most consistent of when to leave, when to go for 8, and how to manage it truly throughout the game. I think is continually one of the best decks in the game. It's not Thanos. He's not the problem, guys. He's good. He's not the problem. Obviously, the stones. It's right now Leech. And when Leech is involved in the meta, it doesn't feel good. And here's the thing. Leech is a very interesting card, especially as a content creator, because guess what? He's been the same since beta. He hasn't done... There's nothing changed on Leech. All right? Nothing ever changes. Nothing changed on Leech from December to now. Nobody played him in January. Why? Because, well, after the leader nerf, right? After the leader nerf, nobody played him. He didn't get any worse. It's when the majority of Snap decides to play Leech, it feels like garbage. Leech is great. He should not be touched because of what he does. I get it. Maybe he could be... I don't know. I'm not here to say balancing-wise. But I think it's important to have this ability in the game to stop some things happening. But when everybody's doing it, when there's a big Leech deck commonly known, that's when it just doesn't feel good. It's like, it'd be like a location. It's like bad locations. Like, you want to play the game. And if you have Leech coming up all the time from a freaking Lockjaw on turn 3, it just sucks, man. It's not fun, right? And so I think he's the problem at the moment.
I think this variant's the problem. But honestly, the actual discussion here is that the thing with Leech, there's two cards you really got to be careful of. There's Leech and Sandman. Those two cards are extremely problematic for Marvel Snap because they do things that make playing the game hard. Like, you have Moon Knight, you have Black Bolt, and they kind of disrupt the opponent's hand. Anytime you destroy the opponent's hand and kind of like crater their ability to play the game, you have to really consider for a moment what you're doing from a design perspective, right? Because not being able to play the game is not a good experience. You know what I mean? Sandman prevents you from playing the game for the most part. So if Sandman's too strong, the whole game feels terrible. Leech, imagine designing all these amazing cards in an incredible design landscape where you come up with the craziest ideas for Silver Surfer, this and that, and then just one card says, nah, nothing matters. You're playing solitaire now. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what Leech does. So you got to be careful with these cards because if they get a little too powerful, oh man, it just kind of ruins the experience, Cozy. And I wonder if Leech is there.
It's interesting because, like, the Patriot is, like, one of the obvious counters to Leech, and I think if we saw maybe more, it would help. I don't know how we could do that, right? But, like, when I love the rock, paper, scissors mentality. If you're playing 60% of games against X, right? And right now that's Shuri. Guess who's in every deck? Shang-Chi, right? So it's interesting because you can include the right cards to counteract what they're doing, but the cards where there's nothing you can do, like, you're done. Like, have fun, right? That's where it feels a bit weird and where I think they need to adjust it. So, yeah, those are the top decks right now. I would say there's a lot on the bubble that can compete. A good chunk. Devil, Dinosaur, tried and true. Pool 1, Pool 2 cards still look great. You can continue to climb with high-value cards. Throw in Thor. Just good value tempo is kind of always underrated. You've got the old reliables like Patriot that they continue to be at a solid win rate. Maybe it didn't work for you, but those are up there as well. And then there's ones that suffer, Alex. I think one of the biggest things about Marvel Snap is knowing the meta and stuff like Zoo. Great deck. Killmonger, currently on the rise because of, obviously, Thanos to counter him and Deathwave. So Zoo isn't probably going to do as good at the moment, right? So it's interesting to see what goes up and down and to track that as long as there's a complement to what is dominating. And I think that's the important balance to find.
And a very interesting thing you brought up here was the idea, like, there are so many kind of fringe decks that a lot of people don't, like, really focus on. We tend to spend so much energy on, like, the top 2 decks, right? Yeah, Shuri, Thanos, we get it, right? But, like, for instance, the thing about Marvel Snap right now is, like, one of the best cards is Lockjaw. That's really what activates Thanos. And there is a rising deck list, and I covered it in my Decks of the Week series. Thor Lockjaw, like, you've seen it. Yeah. It's a damn good list. So if you're someone who does not have Thanos, but you want to kind of capitalize on the popularity of Lockjaw and, like, the power output of Lockjaw, check out look at this guy. He was ready. It's like you read my mind, Cozy. It's like you literally read my mind.
I just did the meta deck report. I had them all ready to go.
Thor Lockjaw is truly remarkable. Do you want to talk him through this list, Cozy? Because I actually love this list.
Yeah, I mean, it's a discounted, essentially, Thanos list. I mean, in the sense of you get to do the same kind of feel as what you're getting. You have so many cards that if they come out of Lockjaw, no big deal. Wasp is that free token card. Sunspot comes out early. You have all this power coming out, right? Thor and his hammer is a free play and continual power up. You have Dracula that comes out. You got American Chavez on the last turn. She-Hulk, Magneto, Infinite. It is a very good deck, especially for where we are right now. It comes down, though, to just like people that like casino decks, or if you want to be more of a tempo player, right? Like, this is a very casino-style deck, where at the same time, if you're more of someone that just wants to play, like, good value cards, you don't want to always just roll the dice and hope something works, then maybe you want to go for something like this tempo value deck that's just good value cards the entire time. You're getting your bang for your buck, right? And that's why it also succeeds very well. And so, I've seen a lot of people call for Arrow, the newest card to kind of get the nerf, right? And people do forget that Arrow has to be there for Galactus, or else Galactus would be the only thing played for the majority of the time. It's a big counter. So we've got to figure out how Leech, Arrow, these other cards exist in the space, but they're not just the worst things to ever go up against, right, man? It's a very interesting balance, but this just goes to show, as well as plenty of other decks, that there's always a new deck around the corner, and it's just building. You could be 2 cards away from actually making it work, you know?
Yeah, and every meta deck really starts with someone doing the homework to figure it out.
Yep.
Right? It could be any one of you. Honestly, the best deck out there is probably not one you even know about right now. That is the honest truth. It's one of you guys
Guaranteed.
is playing an absolutely broken deck that is way better than you realize right now. That is the truth of the matter.
Yep, 100%. So, you know, I think overall some adjustments to be made. Fix the card acquisition. Maybe that fix having all the top cards at the top spots. This is the first time I can recall, outside of, I guess, Zabu and Silver Season, where it's like only those decks are dominating, you know, and it feels really just a bummer for a lot of players out there. But also, like, don't lose hope. You know, you can still climb with plenty of decks out there. And it is going to be interesting to see where the meta goes. I think it's going to change dramatically because of all the balance changes, man. This is still fresh, super fresh meta.
Yeah, and actually the development team, as we talked about prior, did make some changes to the way that they can kind of like hotfix some cards. So they're able to change like the value of like the power, the energy, or do some minor adjustments more on the fly. Because traditionally, I mean, I'm not a game dev. I think we've said that a bunch of times before. But I'm pretty sure they have to go through like processes by patching, like, you know, with Apple and Google Play and stuff like that. So they can't just reiterate that fast. But they have now added a system where they can make minor adjustments to like the power level of certain cards to help them kind of adjust the balance changes as required. So that's great news, because I think, as we mentioned prior, like the balance changes really impact the meta, and they shake things up quite a bit, Cozy. I think people like it when things get shaken up.
Oh, for sure, man. Sandman, Thanos shook it up. Spider-Woman, Dagger, Namor, Namor, not much, right? But they did get more play. So it's cool to see that happen. And guys, let me remind you, right? Content creators, people put us on pedestals. Listen, first of all, I'm just a dude. Second of all, I don't care if one guy won with and this is no discredit. If you won with a list at a tournament for content creator, it doesn't mean that deck's the best deck in the game or even close to that. It may mean it's a good, consistent deck, right? But you don't want to take everything that you see as value. Sometimes these popular decks are up there because they're consistent and then everybody's using it, so you see it a lot. Again, I just encourage you guys to continue to take deck shells and make more out of it, and that's how you're going to discover bigger and better decks, or just ones that can beat the other decks out there, right? It's our job as content creators to try to find those decks and get them out there to you guys. But definitely popularity of a deck does have some importance to it in the meta.
Cozy, I gotta say it. You hit the nail on the head, my friend.
Boom.
And with that being said, I think it's time that we say thank you to everyone for all their support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for upvoting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for everything that you do to support the content that Cozy and I produce. And we joke about it all the time. This is by far the highlight of my week. Cozy, I know you feel the same. And it wouldn't be possible without you guys supporting us. And we are so grateful for your support. Right in the middle of the screen is an opportunity for our viewers to click and watch your side, where we're going to talk about Kang. We're going to talk about the token shop tier list and the March season pass. Borderline an hour of content just waiting for you guys. So click that button, and we'll see you in the next Marvel Snap episode.
And before I let him go, guys, I got to tell this to Alex and everybody watching. This man right here hit infinite, and I couldn't be more freaking impressed by this guy. But just hats off to you, man. Seriously, I love just seeing your adventure climb through the ranks of Marvel Snap, man, and just hats off.
Thank you so much, my friend.